Hey everybody, Dustin DePirac here, Indiana Pacers beat writer, Jim Ozarski from the Milwaukee Sentinel, Bucks beat writer, and so here for our last crossover episode as this series is over. The Pacers take it 4-2. They win a playoff series for the first time since they won the Eastern Conference semifinals back in 2014. They beat the Wizards in that one 4-2 before they got taken down by the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals by LeBron James's Heat. And this young group, a lot of these guys, first-time playoffs. Tyrese Halliburton, first-time playoffs. Andrew Nembhard, a lot of guys playing key roles, haven't been there before. Other guys playing key roles had not won before, and they're moving on. Against an experienced Milwaukee team, obviously, that was hurt. That was missing some guys. I guess we should just start there because it was a pretty key piece to this. Coming into the day of, Giannis and Damian Lillard were both doubtful. Damian Lillard was upgraded to questionable early in the day. Lillard ends up playing. Giannis ends up not playing. First off, what was it sort of like to follow that throughout the day in this whole series, and what ultimately led to one guy playing and not playing?
Yeah, Damian Lillard did play, so, going through his day, he went through some court work previously this morning. He said he came here, went through a 30, 45-minute workout. Okay, can I jump? Can I move? All that kind of stuff. Got through that. More treatment until he gets on the bus, and he said he just didn't feel right. Dustin not giving it a try.
Right.
And so he was always going to be the one of the two that might have been able to go. And not that Giannis hasn't been working hard, but that calf strain was serious.
Right.
And look, it's been April 9th since he was out, and to not have one of the three best players in the world, that's a big deal.
Sure.
And ultimately the Bucks were just too hurt. And the Pacers played really well and were able to, do things in Game 6 that they weren't able to in Game 5.
Yeah, no, and obviously, not having Giannis, I think they were aware, okay, this is still a game we can win. They'd beaten Lillard a couple times before. They come in with having that level of confidence. Also, this team is just really good at not dwelling on what just happened. They were 23-12 in the regular season after a loss. They only had one, they had a 4-game losing streak. They had maybe, I think, 2 other 3-game losing streaks. Didn't have anything more than 4. Generally, stuff doesn't snowball with these guys. They're able to kind of take what happened, apply the lessons, and move on. Even after losses, teams they shouldn't lose to, games they shouldn't lose, or being in situations like they were, the other night where it's Game 5 and you don't have Lillard, you don't have Giannis, and you still, kind of lay an egg in that game. They were able to kind of put that one past them pretty quick. Did a lot of things well, defended really well, made Lillard work for the points he had. He still had 28, but I think he was 7 of, I don't know. It wasn't 7 26. He had a lot of free throws because that's Lillard. But forced him to kind of work for his shots, made everybody else kind of work for theirs. They didn't shoot well from 3. They didn't shoot great from the field. Did a good job of getting into guys, and then they got fantastic performances from a bench that has really struggled in this series. TJ McConnell, who had just a phenomenal year, has not had a good series at all. He's coming into this shooting 37% from the field. He goes off for 20 points. I think he was 7 of 8 from the field, had 9 assists. 4 steals, didn't have a steal in this playoff, which is wild considering he once led the league in steals, but was really getting after it. And you saw once TJ brings that energy, it starts to really snowball in a positive way for them. Obi Toppin got going, was able to get a lot going in transition. Obviously getting the lobs and whatnot. He shot it pretty well, 3 of 10 from 3, and just everything seemed to build on itself. And every time that Milwaukee came back, they would get within 6, or they would get within 7, and Pacers would get a 3 there, or a big 2 there, and an and 1. It seemed like every time, basically, the Bucks were starting to make a charge, Pacers answered the bell, and there was just maybe 1 too many of those occasions for Milwaukee.
Yeah, you mentioned Toppin. it felt like, I think if you're Milwaukee, that he made 6 threes.
Yeah.
And you would think on paper, Miles Turner getting in foul trouble would help the Bucks, when actually Obi Toppin coming in as a small clearly helped the Pacers, but
Sure.
it didn't help the Bucks as much as you would think,
right,
with Miles
they weren't
Turner being out of the game, right? And you're right, the Pacers didn't shoot it great from 3, but they shot it better than the Bucks. And yet again, that difference in 3-point disparity was huge. Also, Dustin, look, the Bucks, a couple of their better free throw shooters missed 6 free throws.
Yeah.
And Brook Lopez has an and 1 he can get, and he misses
that. Was a good moment.
If they had made just their free throws, it's a 3-point game at that point. And we had seen at times when it got tight like that for Indiana, there were sometimes issues with them regaining that confidence, and but yet it wasn't a 3-point game.
Right.
It was still 9 or whatever it was. It was they had a cushion.
Right, exactly. They weren't able to get it to one possession.
Right.
And so they were able to create pressure, but not enough. Basically, when you start to feel like you've lost it all, that's when it starts to really build up. And the Pacers were never quite in the position where they felt like they'd lost it all. And they were able, I think it was after that. I want to say they might have hit a 3.
Yes, they did.
And yeah, so it really immediately goes from maybe it was going to be 3 till it's 7, and then it's a 7-point lead, and it's not comfortable, but it's a little bit comfortable.
Right.
It's certainly a lot
Especially
more comfortable than 3 at home. Crowd obviously built up a lot. They were able to kind of ride those waves, which is what you're supposed to do. And again, a big reason why they really wanted to put it away here and not have to go back to Milwaukee. They were able to ride the crowd a lot. And it's, a big feather in the cap, obviously, for this Pacers franchise, but it's been trying to throw together a rebuild pretty quick. As Rick Carlisle pointed out, it's only, a little over 2 years ago they get Halliburton right around the time they were kind of flipping that roster. It was a 25-win season. 47, they have a playoff series win in the first time in a decade, and so it's obviously a big feather in their cap. Obviously, the Bucks were expected to do more with this season. Certainly, it's tough to kind of judge them correctly when they don't play with one of, without question, probably the 3 best players in the world. If he's not, I don't know, if it's not Jokic, it's him, basically. And how do you think they're going to sort of digest this season? How should the players, and how should, I guess, the franchise, the organization, digest sort of what happened here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they're a group that was trying to walk that line, Dustin, of giving the Pacers respect and saying it's not an excuse, but there is a line between excuses and reasons.
Right.
And when you have 2 top 75 players, one of whom doesn't play, the other of whom,
is limited at the end.
Limited, yeah.
Right,
Can't play an overtime period, essentially. He couldn't move and misses these other games. Like, that's maybe not an excuse.
Right.
But also, look, since Doc Rivers was hired January 29th, Dustin, the big 3 for them, Middleton, Giannis, Lillard, played 6 full games together over a 3-month period.
Yeah.
Again, that's a reason for some things and not an excuse. So I think broadly, look, ownership spent a lot of money. This is another year where they're out in the first round. Doc Rivers is set. That was a big change they made in January. He's going to have a summer. He's going to have a camp. Damian Lillard just said again, don't listen to the noise. He's happy in Milwaukee. He's looking forward to a summer and a camp in Milwaukee with Giannis. And so I think there is hope and optimism, but yet clearly you can't build a roster expecting an injury, Dustin. But but as Chris Middleton said, we weren't good enough as constructed as it was, and so I think they'll have to look at how better do they build around these 3-4 guys with Brook Lopez. Right. It's a tall task.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and the biggest thing is when you have a top 5 player, that makes you a championship contender. When you don't have that top 5 player anymore, you are significantly less of a championship contender, and that's understandable, but it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I thought the Lillard press conference was fascinating. I imagine he's like that frequently, just a very insightful guy, even if he seems like he's not enjoying the process at all, but he's giving you, what on paper is, gold for a beat reporter in terms of just how he expressed just everything he's thinking coming out of this season. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the Bucks do. Fascinating to see what the Pacers do now. They've got an Eastern Conference semifinal series. It's either going to be the Knicks or the 76ers at this point. As we're filming this, it's about halftime in Game 6, so we'll see where that goes. They're going to be playing somewhere on Monday. Might be New York, might be here, so stay tuned. And come check us out there on IndyStar. Check out his stuff at journalsentinel.com.